Hello and welcome to Story Time. Today we're going to talk about a bear that lives where it's really cold, way up north in the North Pole. And that kind of bear is called a polar bear. Do you know what color polar bears are? They're white. Our first book is called Polar Bear, What Do You Hear? And if you know this one already, feel free to read along with me. Polar bear, what do you hear? I hear a lion roaring in my ear. Lion, what do you hear? I hear a hippopotamus snorting in my ear. What do you think that sounds like? Can you make a hippopotamus snort sound? Oh, good job. Hippopotamus, what do you hear? I hear a flamingo fluting in my ear. Flamingo, what do you hear? I hear a zebra braying in my ear. Zebra, what do you hear? I hear a boa constrictor hissing in my ear. Boa constrictor, what do you hear? I hear an elephant trumpeting in my ear. Elephant, what do you hear? I hear a leopard snarling in my ear. Leopard, what do you hear? I hear a peacock yelping in my ear. Peacock, what do you hear? I hear a walrus bellowing in my ear. Walrus, what do you hear? I hear a zookeeper whistling in my ear. Zookeeper, what do you hear? I hear children growling like a lion, growling like a polar bear, roaring like a lion, snorting like a hippopotamus, fluting like a flamingo, braying like a zebra, hissing like a boa constrictor, trumpeting like an elephant, snarling like a leopard, yelping like a peacock, bellowing like a walrus. That's what I hear. Do you know where your ears are? Can you point to them? Good job, you found them. And your ears help us to hear. Our next story is The Three Snow Bears by Jan Brett. Come back, Aliki shouted as her huskies floated out to sea. Oh no! She knew that although an ice floe is a good place to fish, it is a bad place to lose a dog team. Not far away, a snow bear family had just started to eat their breakfast, but it was way too hot for Baby Bear. Owie, yowled Baby Bear. My breakfast burned my mouth. We'll go for a stroll and let the soup cool, Mama Bear said. This sounds like another story that you might know. If you know what it is, you can tell your friend. Aliki was running along looking for her dogs when she came upon the biggest igloo she'd ever seen. Who lives here, she wondered. Aliki ducked inside. Right away, she smelled something delicious. Across the room, she saw a big bowl, a medium-sized bowl, and a small bowl. Surely the good smell was coming from the three bowls. Aliki took a sip from the biggest bowl. Ow, she cried out, too hot. She took a sip from the middle-sized bowl. Ew, too cold. She tipped the littlest bowl and drank every drop. She said, not too hot and not too cold. In the next room, Aleki spotted 3 pairs of beautiful boots standing in a row. She put the biggest boots on. Too big, she said. She put the middle-sized boots on. Too fancy, she said. She put the littlest pair. Just right, she said, wiggling her toes in the soft fur lining. Aleki walked to the last room and found a long sleeping bench piled high with fur covers. Heat from an oil lamp warmed her cheeks and made her sleepy. Time for a nap, she thought. She crawled under the highest mound of covers. Too lumpy, she grumbled. She tried the middle bed with the furry fringe cover, but sank down so far she could hardly breathe. Too soft, she said. She rolled over into the smallest sleeping place. The furry blanket was cozy and warm, and the pillow was just her size. Just right, Aleki murmured, and was asleep before she could take her boots off. If Aleki hadn't fallen fast asleep, she might have heard her dogs barking happily. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear had spotted them adrift from a strong current and gone out to save them. The Snow Bear family was pushing Aleki's dogs team back toward their igloo and safety. Papa Bear crawled into the igloo and saw his big bowl sitting in a pool of spilled soup. "Someone has been tasting my soup," he roared. Mama Bear rushed in and saw that some of her soup had been sloshed around too. "Someone has been sipping my soup," she growled. "Someone found my soup," sputtered Baby Bear in her high, squeaky voice, "and ate it all up." Papa Bear ran into the next room and saw his boots in the middle of the floor. "Someone has been trying on my boots," he boomed in his big bear voice. Mama Bear put on her fancy boots. "Someone had these boots on," she huffed, "and the fur is all bunched up." Baby Bear saw that her boots had disappeared. "Someone has taken my boots and left behind these not as good ones," she wailed. The bears ran into their bedroom. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed," Papa Bear bellowed. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed too," Mama Bear cried. Baby Bear peeked at her little bed and squeaked, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." Aleki opened her eyes and saw 3 bears' noses only inches away. She hopped out of bed and dove between Papa Bear's legs, huge furry legs. Quicker than a seal, Aleki ran from room to room until she burst outside. Her huskies bounced around, barking and smiling their doggy grins. Aleki and her dogs flew over the frozen ice, dodging ridges and cracks. She looked back to wave a thank you to the snow bears. She couldn't see them, but she heard a big gruff voice and a middle-sized voice and a high squeaky voice calling to her. "Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye." So what does this story remind you of? There's another story that sounds just like this. Goldilocks and the 3 bears. There's lots of versions of this one. The next one is the Practically Perfect Pajamas, written and illustrated by Eric Brooks. Do you have a favorite pair of pajamas that you just love to wear all the time? Well, this polar bear does. Percy loved his footed pajamas more than anything else in the world. They were perfect for reading the morning paper, ideal when enjoying an afternoon snack, and a cozy necessity for a good night's sleep. His pajamas protected his beautiful white coat from icicles between his toes, from spills when he was clumsy, and from too much shivering while he was taking a nap. Unfortunately, Percy's PJs were only practically perfect. Not everyone liked his pajamas as much as he did. "Hey, Fancy Pants," said one bear. "Where's the circus?" said another. "Why can't you be more like the rest of us?" shouted a third. The bears teased him endlessly, and the other animals kept their distance. Even the Arctic foxes, who are well known for following polar bears, never followed Percy. "A bear dressed like that," they chuckled. "We don't want anything to do with him." Percy was all alone, or so he thought. How do you think Percy feels right there? Pretty sad. Aurora was one Arctic fox who couldn't stay away. She loved Percy's stylish pajamas and admired that he was brave enough to be different. "I don't care what anyone else thinks," she said. "There's nothing silly about Percy or his PJs." One morning, Percy decided that he'd had enough. "My pajamas are great," he sighed, "but this teasing has got to stop. Practically perfect isn't good enough." Reluctantly, he boxed up his pajamas and put them away forever. "Perhaps now the others won't like me," he said to himself, and headed outside. What do you think is going to happen? Can you make a prediction? Will the other bears like Percy better? Aurora was surprised when Percy appeared without his PJs. "What can he be up to?" she said to herself. "I'd better keep an eye on him today." A lifetime in footed pajamas had not prepared Percy for his new journey into the Arctic. He waded through several icy pools of melting snow. "This isn't so bad," he said, shivering, even though his tender feet were suffering. "Ouch! Ooh!" Percy yelped. The soft furry pads and hairs between his toes froze quickly to the ice. "Hey, can anybody help me?" Percy called out. "My feet are stuck." Several bears glanced in his direction, but no one came to his rescue. Instead, they simply shook their heads and wandered away. "I wouldn't be here right now if I'd had my PJs," Percy whimpered. After several painful tries, he wrenched his feet loose and retreated to his den. While his paws were thawing, Percy tried to cheer up over a late morning snack. He was feeling much better until he accidentally bumped his cocoa. The thick chocolate syrup erupted from his mug and landed right in his lap, leaving a stain on his beautiful white coat. "How can this be happening?" he said. "This is supposed to be a perfect day." Percy grabbed a brush and scrubbed his fur, trying to get it clean. It was impossible work. The scrubbing only spread the cocoa deeper into his coat. Exhausted, he slumped to the floor. "I think I need a good nap," he said. Without his pajamas, however, sleeping was impossible too. No matter what, left side, right side, upside, or downside, Percy could not get comfortable. "Maybe some fresh air will do me good," he said aloud. He lumbered toward the door. Percy paused in front of a mirror. He hardly recognized himself. His fur was stained and matted, and his restless nap had left large puffy bags under both eyes. Out of habit, he looked around for his favorite flannel pajamas. "No," he muttered, shaking his head, "I don't need them." The Arctic sun was as high and hot as it could be, so Percy stepped outside to warm himself. This time he moved slowly and carefully. How does everybody manage, he wondered. This isn't very easy. Soon Percy realized that getting your feet stuck in the snow was very common. He also noticed several other bears with large dirty stains on their fur and big puffy bags under their eyes. Everybody looked miserable, he thought. Maybe all bears should wear pajamas. He quickly remembered, however, that his pajamas were only practically perfect. "I may be cold, dirty, and tired," he said, "but at least now no one is laughing at me." With renewed hope, Percy ran into a large crowd of bears, roughhousing at the edge of the ice. "Hey, Percy," one of the older bears shouted, "where are your star-studded flannel-footed PJs? Did you lose them?" "No," said Percy, "I decided not to wear them today." My, oh my, mocked the oldest. Percy's finally going to act like a real bear. But I am, Percy hesitated. I am a real bear. At least you're finally acting like one, said the others. Come along and play with us today. Percy smiled. Perfect, he thought. I'm part of the group. He bounced back and forth, grinning from ear to ear. What are we playing? He asked. Freeze tag, leapfrog, duck, duck, goose. The bears circled quietly, and Percy waited. Deep in the crowd, someone whispered softly, 1, 2, 3, go! Suddenly, Percy felt a powerful shove from behind and went stumbling toward the icy Arctic water. He barely had time to brace himself before the bitter cold seized him from nose to tail. Oh, those bears are still not being very nice to Percy, are they? Stunned, Percy quickly gathered himself to swim to the surface. The other bears were laughing and pointing. Pretty fun game, eh, Percy, said the biggest bear. Where are your waterproof PJs when you really need them? Percy was crushed. I guess they just don't like me, he said, sinking into the slushy ice and dragging himself ashore. Never in his life had he been so cold and wet and lonely. All he could think about was the warmth and comfort of something friendly and familiar. Looking up, Percy realized he wasn't alone. Go on, Fox, laugh away, he said. I must be quite a funny sight. But Aurora didn't laugh. Hello, Percy, she said. My name is Aurora. You don't know me, but I've been watching you for a long time. I miss seeing you in your splendid pajamas. You do, Percy answered. Yes, of course, Aurora chimed. The other bears are too dull. You always seem so happy in your pajamas. I can't imagine why you'd go anywhere without them. They fit you perfectly. Well, thank you, said Percy. I thought the others might like me better if I didn't wear them. Oh, Percy, said Aurora kindly, that's nonsense. They obviously don't know what they're missing. Follow me. I've got a great idea. The two of them headed toward Percy's den. After discussing Aurora's plan on the walk home, Percy made an even bigger decision than the one he had made that morning. They rushed inside and got right to work. Percy and Aurora dug through mounds of flannel pajamas and sorted out the very best Percy had to offer. Soon they had moved all his pajamas outside. As they shook them out and folded them neatly on the snow, a small crowd gathered around. My goodness, stain resistant? These are very nice, said one bear. And these colors, very flattering, exclaimed a second. Someone has been living right, whistled another bear. The sign that Percy and Aurora made said it all. A day spent in these perfect PJs is far better than a day spent without them, even if you do look a bit silly sometimes. Slowly but surely, the bears helped themselves. As Percy slipped once again into his own favorite pair, he knew Aurora was right. Warm and happy and wrapped in footed flannels, the two new friends looked proudly at the scene. So much for practically perfect, said Percy. These PJs are positively perfect. And that is the end. So it's okay to wear what you want to wear and be just who you are. You don't have to change yourself to make other people like you. And Percy found that out, didn't he, with his pajamas. The next one is titled Sweetest Kulu. Sweetest Kulu, on the day you were born, all the Arctic summer there was to greet you. Smiling suns shone so bright and stayed through the night, giving you blankets and ribbons of warm light. Melodies of wind arrived, sharing stories of how the weather forms and telling you to always listen closely. Wise Wind had learned your name, Charming Kulu, and invited the world to meet you. You had many wondrous and grand visitors. They shared thoughts, feelings, and best wishes with you, darling Kulu. Adventurous snow bunting gifted you seeds from Arctic cotton and flowers for you to plant and grow with, reminding you to always believe in yourself, happy Kulu. Arctic hair with rock willow and roots came to show you love so easily. You became a best friend, baby Kulu, loving to give. Fox, so thoughtful and swift, came to tell you to get out of bed as soon as you awake, and to help anyone who may need help along your way, admired Kulu. Thinking of you, Arctic Char enjoyed reflections in water so sea green, and gave you tenderness too, beautiful and handsome Kulu. Seal, whose favorite color is ice blue, heard of the Arctic Char's adoration of you. Seal loves creativity and surrounded you with color. Nicest Kulu. Narwhal and Beluga saw the natural gift to the world that you are. They give you spontaneity, little Kulu, and the joy feeling that comes with finishing well that you start. Muskox shared heritage and empowerment with you, magnificent Kulu, showing you how to protect what you believe in. Caribou chose patience for you, sweetest Kulu. He gave you the ability to look to the stars so that you will always know where you are and may gently lead the way. Polar bear with powerful instinct taught you to always treat animals with respect and to never scold them. Polar bear made an offering of gentleness, making you a modest and kind Kulu. The beautiful land gave you a practical foundation to balance and build upon. Never be lazy, beloved Kulu, because your land is a place of bright ideas. Dream a little, Kulu. This world now sings a most beautiful song of you. Slumber in safety, tomorrow will wait patiently. Be calm, Kulu, and celebrate, because you are true love. And at the back, there's some pictures of the author and the illustrator. Our last story for today is Polar Bear in the Snow by Mac Barnett. That's a lot of white. You can barely just see the polar bear's nose and two eyes, can't you? There's a polar bear in the snow. Still asleep, he lifts his nose to sniff the air. And he awakens. There's a polar bear in the snow. Where is he going? What do you think? Is he going to visit the seals? No, he is not hungry. Is he going to hunker in a cave? No, his fur protects him from the storm. Is he going to meet a man? No! There's a polar bear in the snow. Where is he going? Oh. Where did the polar bear go? He is going to the sea. He wants to play. And when he is done playing, and he climbs back onto the snow, where will he go then? Who knows? Well, thank you for joining me for story time this week. I'll see you again next time.